Now coming on to our last section, that is the coming acetabular fractures. We have covered the pelvic ring injuries, but now we'll be covering the acetabular fractures in this section. We'll be going through what are the different type of classifications for acetabular fractures. The major classification is the judate and lateral classification. We will be discussing what are the elementary type of fractures and what are associated acetabular fractures. And lastly, we'll be discussing the pelvic discontinuity and injuries to the sacrum and coccyx. Before I move on to acetabular fractures, it is important to understand the concept of column and wall theory. Usually, if you see this is the bone, this is the anterior side of the pelvis, and this is the posterior side. Posteriorly, there's a wall present, which is actually surrounding the acetabular fossa, and this is surrounded by posterior column. Anteriorly, there is a wall which is covering the acetabular fossa associated with the anterior column. So, acetabular fractures occur when the femoral head is driven into the acetabulum. As you know, the femoral head is in the acetabular fossa. When it disrupts this could be simply a wall fracture. The direction of the force determines the fracture pattern. Displaced fracture results in a hip joint incongruency and usually occur in conjunction with the pelvic ring fractures, or it can also occur in isolation as well, and which are actually studied by Emile Letourneau in 1950s. And along with the judate views, as they were he was also studying the pelvic ring injuries, judate and Letourneau formed a classification for the acetabular fractures. Basically, they are divided into elementary fractures and associated fractures. As I told you, there's the column and wall theory is there for the acetabulum. So this could be an isolated posterior wall fracture, or it could be an isolated posterior column fracture. Similarly, it could be anterior wall fracture or isolated anterior column fracture. Now, the only fracture which involves both the anterior and posterior column but is part of the elementary fracture is actually the transverse fracture, in which actually there through the anterior and posterior wall, the fracture line crosses through the acetabular roof. Now, these are all the elementary fractures. Now, combination can form the associated fractures. The combination could be posterior wall and posterior column, could be transverse fracture with the posterior wall fracture, could be a T-shaped fracture, could be anterior wall with the posterior hemitransverse fracture, or it could be anterior and posterior column fracture, or both column fractures actually. Lateral classified into different elemental fractures, as I just told you. With posterior wall fracture is usually most common associated pattern associated with femoral head dislocation, where is the posterior dislocation. Or it could be posterior column fracture occurs when the femoral head is directed medially. There could be anterior wall fracture associated with anterior subluxation of the femoral head, or anterior column in which the head, if the leg had got an impact in abduction external rotation, this would usually result in anterior column fracture. Or simply it could be the transverse fracture in which the leg is in abduction and internal rotation, leading to a transverse fracture which starts from anterior wall, goes all the way across the acetabulum into the posterior wall. Or there could be associated fracture, which would be a combination of elemental fractures, as I just told you. Now coming to the posterior wall fractures. When it occurs when the leg is flexed, adducted and internally rotated. Usually, classically, it's a dashboard injuries. This may be associated with posterior fracture dislocation, and then emergent reduction of femoral head may be required as well. CT scan is used to look at the presence of bony fragments in the joint, or there may be bony fragments as well. Examination under anesthesia, fluoroscopic control is also important just to assess the stability, whether the femoral head redislocates as well or not. If it redislocates, may require operative stabilization. Operative fixation is usually done by a Kosher-Langenbach or extended posterior approach. Now coming to the posterior column fracture. It occurs when the femoral head is directed more medially and leading to posterior column disruption. Fracture line runs from the obturator foramen through the greater sciatic notch. Operative fixation as for posterior wall and posterior column is through KL approach or a Kosher-Langenbach approach. Care is actually taken to expose and mobilize superior gluteal neurovascular bundle. What is important over here is When we are approaching this patient, especially when the gluteus medius and maximus is retracted, usually just above 5 centimeter above, there is actually superior gluteal artery and vein along with the superior gluteal nerve. Care has to be taken for these vessels, otherwise there will lead to paralysis of gluteus medius and minimus and eventually leading to abductor lurch. Medial displacement of the femoral head is also problematic because cortex leads to sciatic nerve palsy as well. Now, there could be a fracture of anterior wall and column fractures as well. Now, when anterior wall fractures occur, the mechanism is such that usually this results in can be mistaken for superior pubic fracture as well, or occurs where the leg was in external rotation at the time of injury. Radiograph usually show a broken iliopectineal line in two places. When anterior column fractures, this is when the X-ray you show usually the disruption of iliopectineal line. Subtypes are according to the fractures. There may be associated anterior column with anterior wall, or anterior column with posterior hemitransverse fracture may be present as well. Usually the operative fixation is through via the stupas or ilioinguinal approach. Ilioinguinal approach is usually more preferred. Now coming to the transverse fracture, as I told you, this is one of the last elementary fractures as given by Julian and Lawton classification. The separation of anterior and posterior column. The fracture line is such that it starts from anteriorly and goes all the through the acetabular roof into the posterior column. Innominate bone divided into the proximal fragment and the distal fragment associated with sacroiliac joint injuries. And actually the height guides the treatment, that is the low transverse or high transverse type, or it's a T-type fracture or not. It may be transtectal, juxtatectal, infratectal. Well, this is the area. If it is above this could be transtectal, going through it. Above it could be juxtatectal, and infratectal when it is below that level. There could be a T-shaped fracture in which actually combines the fracture type called as the transverse as well as the fracture line opens inferiorly into the obturator foramen. This fracture is a transverse fracture with a second vertical fracture line across the acetabulum. You can appreciate there is the anterior column fracture going all the way into the posterior column. There is a vertical line which opens up into the obturator foramen leading to transverse type T-type fracture. Associated with the sacroiliac joint injury, usually if looking at the height before deciding the surgical approach, if it's a high T-type fracture, that can be approached by the posterior approach, but if it's a low T-type, you may require an anterior approach as well. Then sometimes you have to combine causalangina approach along with ilioinguinal approach, or you may have to open via extended iliofemoral approach, which takes both the anterior and posterior approach into account. Now coming to the transverse posterior wall fracture. If you see this X-ray, you can appreciate this probably pelvic ring looks okay, but there's definitely acetabulum fracture. If you see, this is the iliopectineal line, this is disrupted. If you see ilioischial line, this is disrupted. So, and there is a transverse fracture of the iliac bone going all the way like this, and then there is another fracture line which is going down like this. So this is actually a posterior wall along with the transverse fracture. Transverse fracture with the dislocation of the femoral head causing associated posterior wall fracture. This is also associated fracture type, occurs when the leg was adducted, flexed and internally rotated. Incidence of sciatic nerve palsy is actually high, especially almost 70%. And reduction of femoral head, which is if dislocated, may require initially closed reduction. If it is unable to reduce, or whether the intra-articular fragments are present, then may require open reduction as well. Now coming the posterior wall with posterior column fracture. Now what would happen is, if you see iliopectineal line, this is the iliopectineal line, it looks okay. There's nothing wrong with iliopectineal line. But if you see ilioischial line, it's disrupted. If you see posterior wall, I cannot appreciate any continuity with the posterior wall as well. So this is posterior wall with posterior column fracture, and occurs with the leg when it's flexed and internal rotated. Femoral head may or may be not dislocated, but if it is dislocated, it requires closed reduction, and if it cannot be closely reduced, it requires open reduction as well. And usually at the level of greater sciatic notch. may be associated with sciatic nerve palsy, and its fixation is required by a Kosher-Langenbeck approach. Now coming the anterior column with posterior hemitransverse fracture. What requires is this disruption of iliopectoral line. This means the anterior column is lost, but posteriorly there is hemitransverse fracture. This is not loss of complete column, but a small fracture line goes into the posterior column. This is anterior column and involving in posterior hemitransverse fracture as well. This is the fracture of the anterior column associated with the posterior column fracture at the posterior half of the innominate bone. That is what is called as posterior hemitransverse. Requires operative fixation, and now both the columns are involved, the one option is to approach it via stupas and making it medial, lateral, central window. Other option is to approach by two approaches, that is Kosher-Langenbeck for posterior hemitransverse and ilioinguinal for anterior column. Or the last is it can be approached by extended iliofemoral approach, in which both the columns can be addressed with single approach. Now associated both column fractures. What is important is if you see this X-ray, can you appreciate there's a disruption of iliopectineal line? There is also disruption of ilioischial line. And then this is a spur sign which can be very clearly visible over here. This is a V-shaped sign which is just superior to the head. This is called as associated both column fractures. That is a complete dissociation of all parts of the acetabulum from innominate bone. X-ray may show spur sign, as I just told you, may require more than one surgical approach. Now when both columns are involved, one option is that you can go for anterior column fixation by ilioinguinal approach and posterior column fixation via Kosher-Langenbeck approach, or you can use an extended iliofemoral approach to address both columns. Whatever it is, depending upon the surgeon's preference. Coming to the management, the goal of the treatment is to restore joint congruency, provide fracture stability to allow mobilization and prevent osteoarthritis. But if it does undisplaced fractures can be managed conservatively. But what is the criteria? They should not be displaced by more than 2 mm. If they are displaced more than 2 mm, they require fixation. Patients are usually mobilized with partial weight bearing, and after 3 to 4 weeks, complete weight bearing can be started. If there is associated with hip dislocation, then usually the close reduction of the dislocation is mandatory. And if we cannot reduce it closely, it requires an open reduction. Coming to the Kosher-Langenbeck approach is actually used for it's a posterior approach to the acetabulum, and all these fractures of posterior wall or posterior column or posterior hemitransverse fracture can be treated by Kosher-Langenbeck approach. Then comes the ilioinguinal approach. This is more anterior approach to the acetabulum. Anterior column, anterior wall fracture are involving the usually are treated with ilioinguinal approach, and plating screws can be done through ilioinguinal approach. Then there are special cases, especially the elderly patients who have fracture pattern which are frequently associated pattern, like there could be anterior column, anterior wall, or it could be both column fracture, or it could be anterior column with posterior hemitransverse fracture. Now these actually require fixation, but their condition is such they may have a very associate a lot of comorbidities, and fixation cannot be done. So they do not tolerate bed rest and traction well as well. The problem in this case is if you go for surgery, can it may be associated with a lot of complications, and if you do not go for surgery, may be associated a lot of complications with not going with the surgery as well. So they are vulnerable to venous thromboembolism, chest sepsis, pressure sores as well. Conservative management is usually early mobilization. If you have decided to go for conservative management, then probably require early mobilization, care of pit sores, and prevention of venous thromboembolism. But if we have decided to go for fixation, then usually sometimes instead of going with fixation, what needs to be done is they're going for replacement straight away. That would prevent the second surgery which may be required once the osteoarthritis develops. And fixation with dual approach is usually rarely done in these cases, because sometimes there may be associated 2 columns and they have to be fixed either one column anteriorly and one column has to be fixed posteriorly as well. Now coming to a term called as pelvic discontinuity. It could be an acute or a chronic as well. It may occur when there is a prosthetic loosening of the acetabular component of the fracture, or there could be acute discontinuity. For example, the patient had some kind of a total hip replacement. Now patient suffered for trauma leading to this kind of an acetabular dislocation or dissociation of the implant. If it may be associated with periprosthetic acetabular fracture, or it could be an fragility type fracture. The patient may be a old age woman, or maybe a 70-80-year-old male who may have suffered from minor trauma and resulting in type of a femoral neck fracture and acetabular fracture leading to pelvic discontinuity. So it could also be an iatrogenic injury at the time of acetabular prosthesis placement, but usually it's very rare. What are the complications which could be associated with pelvic injury? If it's a periprosthetic fracture, then there could be leading to heterotropic ossification, or there could be malalignment, and it could be redislocation as well. But if it's a fragility factor, this may be associated with AVN or hip abductor dysfunction, or it may be associated with severe osteoarthritis, which may require a replacement as well. Now we are coming to the brief injuries of the sacrum and coccyx. Sacrum usually required, sometimes there are three zones of injuries. It could create one or zone 1, 2, or 3 according to Dennis and Weber classification. Sacrum may get fractured due to a blow from behind or fall on the tail, may fracture the sacrum or coccyx or sprain the joint between them. What is important is there may be considerable bruising or tenderness may be present as well. On X-ray, especially over the inlet views, you usually see a transverse fracture of the sacrum is rare in cases the lower fragment is pushed forward. Usually there is a vertical fracture, and these vertical fractures are mostly treated conservatively until unless they may be associated with the neurovascular compromise. Fractured coccyx, sometimes there may be a lower fragment may be angulated forward, but what is important is coccyx is formed with the 4 to 5 coccygeal vertebrae which are fused together, and usually there is no neurovascular bundle which is actually present over here, so there may be on treated conservatively. There may be a normal appearance if injury rarely sprained sacrococcygeal injury. Sometimes there is no fracture at all. There is only sprained sacrococcygeal ligaments which may be treated with analgesics, bed rest, and use of soft cushions for sitting management. Treatment, if it is displaced, may require reduction, but even sometimes it is displaced, usually is not treated with surgery but treated conservatively. Patients are allowed to resume a normal activity, but what is important is that they may require analgesics as well as use of cushions for sitting. Fractures may be associated with urinary problems or sacral laminectomy. Now, although it may happen, but although it's very rare as well, especially if it's a sacral fracture associated with S1 or S2, because from here the lumbosacral plexus is actually passing, so there will be impotence, urogenital problems, and maybe neurological problems may be associated with it. Coccygeal injuries, if it's leading to non-union, or if it's quite painful, or if it's end-stage coccydynia, then may require a coccygeal excision, but usually conservative management is most of the time enough for the patients. In this section, we have briefly gone through the acetabulum fractures. This is Judith and lateral classification for this. There is basically divided into elementary type fractures, which are actually of 5 subtypes. This could be anterior wall fracture, anterior column fracture, it could be posterior wall or posterior column, or transverse fracture. Then there are associated fractures. Associated fractures mean when there is a combination of a mechanism. It could be anterior wall, anterior column, or both column fractures. It could be anterior wall with posterior hemitransverse. It could be transverse T-type fractures. It could be posterior wall with posterior column, or it could be anterior wall with anterior column type of fractures. So what is important is that most of these acetabular fractures require fixation if they are displaced more than 2 mm, or there is increased sacroiliac joint disruption. Now, approaches could be anterior or posterior. Posteriorly, we use Cauchy-Lagenbeck approach, and anteriorly, we can use ilioinguinal approach. Sometimes both approaches may be required to fix it, or we can go for extended iliofemoral approach to fix both column fractures. Thank you very much. Keep watching sqadia.com.